Okay, BESE members, we got a very full agenda for this committee. I would like to go ahead and get started so we don't delay lunch too much. Yes, can we have a roll call, please?
Dr. Beebe? Dr. Beebe? Dr. Beebe is not present. Ms. Bofi?
Here.
Ms. Bofi is present. Ms. Bradford? Ms. Bradford is not present. Mr. Garvey?
Here.
Mr. Garvey is present. Mr. Gio? Mr. Gio is not present. Ms. Hill?
Here.
Ms. Hill is present. Mr. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Lee is present. Dr. Moranti?
Present.
Dr. Moranti is present. Ms. Orange Jones?
Present.
Ms. Orange Jones is present. Mr. Romer?
Here.
Mr. Romer is present. Ms. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Smith is present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Can we have the first item, please?
First item is on page 1, item 2.1, consideration of report on types 2, 4, and 5 charter contracts and requests for amendments. The department recommendation is to approve.
Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move approve.
Mr. Romer. Second by Ms. Orange Jones. Do we have any presentation? Do we have any questions from BESE members? Let's start with that. Ms. Hill.
Yes, I have several questions. One of the questions is, I don't know if the representative is here from Milestone Academy, but I did look at the backup information that we received within our packet, and I know that they're up for renewal, but my question is, what is the purpose of them changing the managing operating or authorizers from Milestone Academy, Innovators in Milestone to Algiers Charter? Is there anyone here to speak?
I could certainly speak to it. The intent is that SABIS was not providing the Milestone School the services that it needed in order to serve its students as well as they could, and their feeling was that Algiers, which is geographically located on the West Bank, would do a better job of serving the school's academic needs.
Okay. And my next question is, because I know previously, maybe a year or a half ago or so, I can't recall, but I know there's a policy in place where a charter school decides to change their managing group and the name of their school, that once they do that and a new managing group take over, that they have a clean slate, meaning that their performance scores, that they will not receive a letter grade, they would just continue to receive the annual growth for the first 2 years.
No, that's not right. That is, you're talking about the T policy.
Correct.
Which says that if you keep the kids, but you change the staff and you change the governance structure, meaning you go from a direct run school to a charter school, from a charter school to a direct run, meaning the governing body is a totally different governing body, then you get a T. This school does not fit under that. They don't have a new staff. They don't have a new governing body. All they're doing is hiring a different vendor.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions from BESE members? Okay, I do have some questions, but I'm not going to argue one way or the other on this, so I believe I can retain the gavel as long as I'm just asking questions. And the first one really, I guess, is some information. My understanding is that within the last 12 months, there was a 70% turnover in the membership of the board of this school.
I believe there was a significant turnover. I don't know whether it's 70%, but it was certainly significant.
Okay, does that, the department's aware of that? Is the
Yes,
department
we are.
concerned about that?
No, we support it. We think the changes have been good overall, and we think the school is headed in the right direction with this appointment. We have been concerned about the school in the past, no question about it. But we think this is a positive move toward a stable organization to support them.
Okay, and Algiers Charter School Association, how are they performing? Are we ranking charter management organizations? And if so, how would Algiers fit in the ranking? And my concern is that they have not really been doing all that well, and I'm concerned that they won't do well with this school.
We don't share that concern. When we look at the performance of O'Perry Walker, which for a long time has had one of the hardest to serve populations in the state of Louisiana. When we look at some of their elementary schools, when we look at many of the schools they return to Orleans Parish that have been successful, we feel actually very proud. And I would actually say that under new leadership in the last year and a half, we think they've done some incredible things, including the Landry-Walker merger, which they pulled off very, very well. We look forward, and I sincerely hope that Algiers will expand its profile across the city. But, you know, when I think about schools like Berman, like O'Perry Walker, as I mentioned, you know, we feel actually happy. Do I think every school, and I certainly can't speak for the board or for Adrian Morgan or anyone else, do I think every one of those schools is where we'd want it to be? No question about it. They're not all the way we want them to be, but they're on the right path.
Okay. The backup didn't say anything about y'all having researched Algiers, but it sounds like y'all have done it, that y'all have significantly looked at that issue, and I'm glad to see that. About O'Perry Walker, when did AXA take over O'Perry Walker? Is that just 1 year?
Maybe 6 or 7 years ago.
So they've had it
so
for a while?
right after the storm. Yeah.
Okay. But it's only 1 year that it's been merged.
It's only 1 year it's been merged with Landry. They had
okay, I'm confusing the two schools.
Yes, Landry, that student population has only, and that facility has only been a part of AXA for a year.
And have you evaluated the results from this year's test scores?
We don't have it. We don't have it back.
School?
We don't have it back yet because we haven't released the end of course or the ACT results or the graduation rate. But we spent a lot of time in the school, and I can tell you from a school climate perspective, from a morale perspective, we've seen very good things.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hill?
Yes. I guess, I'll share some concerns in regards to Algiers Charter, even though I'm not a resident of New Orleans, but I do receive numerous calls and emails and videos in regards to Landry and O'Perry Walker, and I don't know why Milestone will want to partner with Algiers, but for whatever reason, I have to respect their decision. But my concern that Algiers have not approving themselves to us as a board in regards to some of the performance scores, in regards to some of the student population that's there, and some of the things that I have received. I'm quite sure some other board members probably received the same information, that is disturbing. I have had the opportunity to visit Landry High School, but when I went, the students was not, currently it was during the summer. But my concern is that I think Algiers Charter needs to continue to work with the population that they have and not try to extend out. Now, in regards to Milestone Academy, in the past, we have had numerous concerns in regards to this school meeting the growth, meeting the SPS score, and so I just have a lot of reservations in regards to approving this charter school to connect with Algiers Charter, because I'm quite sure there are probably some other managing groups out there that they could have partnered with. So with that, I think Algiers Charter needs to begin to work with what they have and approve in regards to the student population, academic growth, etc.
Maybe my support needs to be more articulate, but I think the facts that were just articulated by Ms. Hill are dead wrong.
Well, I disagree.
Look, no school or organization is perfect, and I think the CEO of this group and the board would probably be the first to say they've got a long way to go. But this board has never not approved a renewal or an extension for an Algiers Charter School Association school. So to say that this board has not weighed in on the quality would be wrong. You have weighed in on the quality, and you've approved it every time. Second of all, we asked this organization to take on what was probably the most significant operational implementation, meaning the merger of two very large high schools into a new facility, that any charter management organization in New Orleans has had to take on, and they did it well. Second or third, they are a charter management organization that has returned schools to Orleans Parish Authority. And this has been long urged by many members of this board, and that has happened under this group. And there are other schools that are within the RSD that are actually eligible to go back because of the successes that Algiers has achieved with its school. Now, is everyone in the place they'd want it to be? I'm sure that the answer would be no. From my perspective, the answer is no. But the idea that they are a West Bank-based CMO that is coming in to take on the support function for a struggling West Bank Type 2 school is actually a very encouraging thing.
But they're struggling.
They're located on campuses on the West Bank. So, I think to me this is a positive. It's a logical move for the Sabbath school, or for the former Sabbath school, and especially it's a good thing because we're starting to hold charter management organizations accountable. Sabbath was not doing the job, and they're asking for a support organization that can help them do the job. If they can't help do the job, we now have the faith to know that they'll identify it honestly, and they'll come back and they'll make a change.
Ms. Beebe?
I'm sorry, I had to take care of some business. I was late to the discussion. But what is the school performance of this milestone Save Us Academy? I don't know that you've already discussed it.
I don't know that I have it in my fingertips. Do you have it, Adam?
It's a D.
It's a D school.
Okay, so here we are. They're separating from their original charter operator. Is that what
They're separating from their original management organization. Yes.
management
Yeah.
organization? And so they're D, and we're recommending this agreement with the Algiers Charter Schools Association,
Yes.
and we're asking for a name change.
Well, their name originally had Sabbath in it. They would no longer be the company that they're working with, so that would change.
Okay, well, I guess that, anyone else to ask about?
Okay. Do we have any other questions from BESE members? We have some speakers on this. Ms. Lee Barrios?
Lee Barrios, retired teacher, St. Tammany. I have some questions, which I know I can't ask, but I'm suggesting that maybe some of the BESE members should be asking these questions. The first one is about process. And the beginning of this day was an example of how process and policy is not carried forward and just excused when the change in the time of the meeting, with the change in the time of the meeting. But the rule is that, the policy is that this sort of application has to be submitted at least a month before the BESE meeting. And that's not the case in this. It's been less than a month. Now, you can bicker over a few days, but at what point will these things be allowed, even though there may be a few days, a week, a month, whatever it is? So that process has not been adhered to. This is the same, Algiers Charter School is the same organization, if I'm not correct, that overruled the wishes of 2 of their charters to return to the Orleans Parish School Board. That's a concern for me. Also, I don't see, it says in the last minutes of the school on April 30th that they agreed to enter into negotiations, and now they're asking already for approval of this, but I don't see a contract. And it seems that when you all approve charters in the first place, you have to have all that information before you. But if there is a contract, it wasn't included in this information, so we don't really know exactly what the circumstances are going to be for their taking over this school. So those are the concerns I have. Thank you.
I would just remind the board, just quickly as I'm listening to the commentary, just think about that you approved a escalating scale for letter grades, where schools, charter schools now will have to get higher than they've gotten in the past in order to reach their goals. This school's been open for 10 years, and we authorize this as a state. This is not a local charter, it's not a Type 5 takeover. This is a Type 2 school that we as a board have allowed to exist essentially as a D or an F for 10 years. Now, you recently approved higher standards. This doesn't take them off that path. If this school doesn't work for its kids, it's not going to be around. And the standards that you approved are now higher. They are coming, as a charter school should, to select the right organization to help them meet those new standards. And I think that's an important piece of context here.
Mr. Paul.
Ms. Beebe?
Well, Mr. Superintendent White, to just quote you, so this school has been in operation 10 years? Mm-hmm. And it's been failing 10 years because, to use the definition of failing, it's a D. And so why do we continuously recycle, if you will? We need one.
Well, it's always met the standard, that the minimum standard of quality to remain open. But now you, thank you, have authored higher standards for schools that they have to meet now. As a result, the standard's going to have to be higher than this D letter grade for this school to stay open. And what this board is evidently saying to us is we're going to need better support to meet the standard. And if they don't meet the standard that you have approved, it won't be around anymore. So we're talking about as if we're going to meddle in their decision making. Better probably to hold them accountable for the results, and I thank you for raising the bar high for them.
Okay, but if I may follow up, Mr. White, and
Yes.
I sincerely want the clarification.
Yes.
So how many years do we give to this charter management operator? If we approve this today, how many years will it take them to attain a passing score? Do we give them 10 years? Do we give them 5 years?
Adam, what's the next renewal? So it'll have to be a C within 2 years.
A C within 2 years.
Yep.
Superintendent
That's
White.
still failing. According to
call it whatever-
BESE standards.
I don't believe that's true. According to BESE standards, that would meet authorization.
Ms. Hill?
Well, I guess my concern is why didn't Milestone Academy negotiate with OPSB? Because I know there's a policy in place where if a school is failing for so many years under the Recovery School District, then you go in negotiation with the local school district.
This school is not located in Orleans Parish. This school is located in Jefferson Parish.
So why didn't they negotiate with Jefferson Parish?
This is a type 2 charter school. It serves kids from multiple parishes.
Okay, I do have a follow-up question. To start off with, can you correct me if I'm wrong, does the department or does BESE normally approve the contract between charter school board and a CMO?
Yes, it's in the in the laws and the regulations that when that is changed, the board has to approve that change.
But we don't have a contract to approve in this instance at this time, correct?
We have an amendment to the charter. This is an amendment to the charter.
But I'm talking about the contract between the charter board and the CMO.
We don't approve that contract. We approve the charter that then basically commands them to go change that contract.
Okay, so the fact that we don't have a contract in place is not a problem because we don't normally, a contract between the CMO and the board is not a problem because we don't normally, as a board, BESE, approve those contracts anyway.
Correct.
And whatever that contract ends up being, it has to in some place say that the CMO will run the charter in accordance with the charter contract between the board and BESE, I would imagine, right?
That's right.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
That's not very clear to me. Would you run that by again?
The-
That's about as
the-
clear as,
You have a contract, the state board has a contract with this local board to run a school. Today you are amending that contract. That contract said that SABIS will be the support organization. Now it is saying that Algiers will be the support organization. So you're changing that contract. Now, that local board then needs to go establish a contract with Algiers. But that's their business. We're doing our business of adjusting our contract with them, with the local board.
I would add, except it is our business to the extent that the contract that the board enters into with Algiers has to say that Algiers will run the school in accordance with the charter contract
Yes,
that is between the board and BESE.
correct.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Ms. Jones.
Do you know what other management organizations that this particular board was considering when they determined that ACSA was the board?
I do not.
You do not.
I do not.
But do you suspect there were other choices and they were thoughtful?
I know it was a long process.
It was a
I
long
mean, this has been we've been engaged with them for a year, about this concern. We were in meetings. In fact, I met with the board personally myself to talk through options that they've had regarding facilities and other issues. And I know they were thinking very seriously about their operator, about their company. I don't know which exact other ones they were considering.
Okay, we have another speaker, Sarah Wood.
I do know that they did an all-call for solicitations.
I just want to say, I sat through all the hearings for House Bill 703, which was having to do with, overriding basically school board decisions as to whether to have a charter school for A, B, or C schools. It was trying to stop that, trying to stop charter schools from overriding the decision by the school board and going to BESE, basically, as I understood it. And I just found it remarkably hypocritical that we're sitting here talking about a school that has been failing for 10 years, according to y'all's own definition. And here we go. What are we going to do about it? Just give it to another organization to run it. That I just find it appalling that you also blatantly have different rules for public schools and charter schools and different accountability. I just found it very offensive. Thank you.
I would just reiterate for the board that charter schools follow the same rules and they have the same accountability that district schools do.
Mr. Chairman, is the contract between Algiers and Milestone, is that a public record?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mr.
we have,
Chairman?
No, Mr. Reed.
yes.
I think
Ms. Moranti?
I think I might be concerned about, are we providing a loophole by doing this?
A loophole to what, Dr. Moranti?
Well, they're bypassing a process. I mean, if
Which
they're-
process are they bypassing?
If it's not been a successful charter school, according to what we have regulated.
It has been successful according to what we regulated.
Okay.
And I
So now
apologize
they're
for not
just
making that
doing-
clear.
okay.
Well, here's what's happened. We have had a relatively low bar, and they've met that bar every time. So they, according to what's been regulated, it has been successful. You have, 2 meetings ago, increased that bar, and that has obviously gotten the attention of many charter schools who are saying, in order for us to maintain our ability to operate, we're going to have to meet a higher bar. I apologize that I wasn't clear about that. That's the issue here. Yes.
And Superintendent, for point of clarification, it was stated that we treat charters different from regular public schools, and my question is do we not allow regular public schools that are Ds to continue to operate, or do we take over or close down public schools that are Ds?
No, a traditional
traditional.
Yes, sir. A traditional public school has to be an F for 4 straight years in order for the state to take it over.
Okay, so it looks like we are following the same rules as applied to regular public schools, in this instance anyway.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Jones?
I just want to clarify. So this is a case where a school is basically doing, in theory, what we would want a school to do, which is look at itself, look at its overall performance and say, what is it going to take for us to get to the next level, given that we've just raised the standards? They will have to take action. Otherwise, they will be in jeopardy of not being successful in the future and inevitably closing, right? So they're trying to take action so that they could actually perform better than they have in the past for students.
That's correct.
Okay.
And the only thing that brings you into this is that it's in the law that when a management company changes, we have to amend our contract with them. That's different from a textbook company or a busing
Right.
company. We don't have to do that with it. When a management company changes, we have to amend. I don't think it's a loophole or anything like that. We've done this before with other schools that have changed their management organization. When that happens, if it's appropriate, we change the contract.
Okay, we have another speaker, Deborah Moe. Okay. Karen Harper Royal.
Good morning. And I know you guys went through this, but I guess maybe I missed it. Will this school be rated as a T over the next 2 years, even though its school performance score is a D? No. So it will continue to be whatever it earns each of the next 2 years, and then by that 3rd year, it needs to be a C if I'm clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I wanted to just bring to your attention, I know that you say that you treat all schools the same in terms of them having to be failing for 4 years before you shut them down, whether it's a traditional school or a traditional school. That wasn't the case with Banneker School in New Orleans. That wasn't the case when Greater Gentilly had not been in operations for even 4 years before it was transferred into a recovery, into a charter school. So when we say we always do this, we need to be clear if that is indeed true or not. We don't always do this. I know that AP Turo has not operated as an F school for 4 years before it was shut down at the end of this school year. And so it is important that schools are treated the same if we have this same accountability system that they all have to reach. My other question or concern about the changing of operators with Milestone Service is, was this discussed within that parent community that they would be switching to a new operator? And you know, was that, were there any concerns that came up from that parent community? And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And for the board, I'd like to correct what I said when I said that we treat all schools the same, charters compared to traditional schools. My understanding is that we treat charters much more harshly than we treat traditional public schools, in that if a charter school is a D, there are circumstances where we will not renew a charter at renewal time. And as you heard stated today, in the future, if a charter school is not a C, we are planning to not renew charters. Whereas with traditional public schools, we do not take over or shut down D and schools that are not Cs. So I stand corrected. We have another speaker, Debbie Sachs.
My understanding of charter schools is they were supposed to give parents an option to failing public schools, and I could see where people might think that that would be a good idea. Well, recently, so the meeting that in Senate Ed where Sarah's talking about, I don't understand when you guys say you treat charters the same as public schools, and you go ahead and you grant charters to Lafayette Parish, okay, who didn't want them, the local school board didn't want them, and then if they're supposed to give parents an option, why do they locate right next to the better schools? I don't understand if charters are going into these areas to give parents a chance to give their children an opportunity to escape failing public schools. Why do your charter schools locate in the better districts near the better public schools? Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have any more speakers. Do we have any questions from BESE members? Okay, hearing none, do we have any objections to the motion?
Object.
Okay. Please note Ms. Hill is objecting. Any other objections? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next item.
That concludes the agenda.
Thank you.